computer. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of day number 4 for working with the procedures of building the temple. And we've already talked about building trust with the method. We've talked about building verification into the method. We've talked about the layers of the temple and giving methodologies. And now we're talking about the practical application and the practice of usage of these things. And so yesterday, you had a homework assignment.
Yes, I did indeed.
I'm quite disappointed to hear that you did not complete the homework assignment, but you did do some things. So would you mind talking a little bit about that?
I set the foundation, but beforehand, because as soon as you gave me that assignment, I left for a 1.5 hour to 2 hour walk. Upon returning home from that walk, it was maybe 11 at night. I had to wake up at 8. I'm a pretty sleepy guy, especially after it was a nice walk, but I was pretty tired. So I didn't follow through with the entire process, but I did the physical aspect of it, but I did not get anything flowing, and that is on me. But yeah, I always have more opportunity to do that.
So what was the thing that you did get done?
When it comes to what I wanted to do was use, based off of last night's discussion, use my sigil of astral projection and turn it into a more usable means that I can use when I go to sleep to project, instead of just holding a sigil or clutching it and then stuffing it into my sock and having it disappear in the morning. If I'm dedicating something to this and putting energy behind it and actually making something of it, I don't want it to just get lost. So after discussing it with Brian, he told me, he gave me a couple ideas for other ways to prepare it in a way that I can infuse myself with it rather than just clutch it, hold it. So the sigil was charged using the lunar gates, lunar celestial gates, and I decided to make an infusion based off of that using cucumber water, as it is a plant of the moon. And I love cucumber water. It's pretty good. It's yummy, and that was one of the main reasons why I chose it. But upon reading it later, I also realized that it has different correspondences, which made me want it even more.
What were some of those correspondences?
Well, in a couple works of Morris and whatnot, it talks about how it corresponds with the planet, like cucumber and etc. Cucumber oil, cucumber, the plant itself corresponds with the lunar plant, the moon. It was listed in a few, and I figured, hey, I have cucumber on hand and it tastes really good and I kind of want some, so I decided to put it together.
Excellent. Well, at least you're getting there. You made the drink, you drank the drink, you just didn't finish the conjuration. Like,
yeah, I didn't put the oomph behind it that I had initially planned. But I'm not going on any walks tonight. I have no real invigorating tasks planned. I can actually get the time to do such a thing without feeling exhausted and falling asleep before anything can actually happen.
Excellent. Excellent. So what is the outcome that you're hoping to achieve with your ritual?
A means of forced projection without having to go through the multiple month-long series of attempts. And even after that, it's described in a lot of communities for astral projection, for example, because I love that idea, and a lot of works go on in the astral plane, so I figure I might as well. But even experienced people, it can happen as a random variety base. It's never guaranteed, and I don't like that. I mean, if I have to deal with it, I will, but if there's a way to cause forced projections like we discussed yesterday, wrote down the name of the stone or metal. Right there it is. But I'm all for it, you know, any means I can use as a medium to help increase my chances, which
Mhm.
is full of many things.
Okay. So this afternoon with Mike in the conversation that he and I had, we went through a full method of summoning through. He wants to be able to go into a cemetery and raise the spirits or have a place where the spirits can interact. And so that's what he was going to create. It's for his larger project and implementation. So now that you have the time to do it, do you want to go through a more in-depth version of what you could do based on the tools you have on hand? And so that way you can set it up tonight and you know exactly what you should be doing. So all you have to do is plug and play.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do that.
Oh, yeah.
So first off, let's talk about your sigil. Okay. What are you going to draw it with?
On hand, I don't have any specialized inks or anything.
Do you have any watercolors?
I do not. Not that I know of.
Do you have a blue pen?
A blue pen. That's hilarious because I'm using a red one. I'm sure there's one around here. I'm not on hand. I can look for.
If you use red, all right, red is a yang color. Okay.
Right.
Black or blue would be a yin color. So in this case, if you only have a red pen, you would need to put it on the back of your hand in order to be able to channel the yang energy into your body.
Yeah.
So you could use red if you have nothing else.
Just wouldn't be as effective. It would be more of a pain in the ass than any other means.
For what?
Well, I mean, like, I'm more making do with it rather than if I had a blue one, for example, it'd be a lot easier. I wouldn't have to stick to certain things, you know?
Right. Right. And so like, whereas if you put it on the palm of your hand, if you had a blue pen, you could pull it in as the yin receptive into your hand, into your body. Whereas when you're channeling energy and such, energy generally flows through the back of your hand into the palm chakra and then outwards from it. So by putting it on the back of your hand, you're pulling it into your body. So that would be a placement versus the palm. So palms are for projective magic. Back of the hand is to pull it into the body. Do it on the back of your non-dominant hand. So use your dominant hand to draw on the back of your non-dominant hand. Right? So that way you can pull it in and you can focus on it. And then what you can do is you can take your cucumber water and pour it over the back of your hand. You add it to the ingredient.
Right. Before I infused myself with it, but it may be easier and more psychologically effective to just get to work, you know. Right.
So the next thing that you can do, here's another method that you could use. You could draw it out on the red with your pen of whatever. Just make sure the pen is non-toxic, correct?
I believe so. I hope. Wow.
Because there is a method of consumptive magic. Do you know if you have any food coloring in your spice cabinet?
I'm sure. I don't really know.
If you do have food coloring, use the red one or the blue one.
Use whatever correspondence is available.
Right. Add a couple of drops of that to some water. Paint it on the back of your hand. Add a couple of drops of the blue to your cucumber water or what have you. But you take a piece of paper, you use the blue infused cucumber water as an ink, draw it on a piece of paper that you then light on fire and burn to ash. Mix that ash into the cucumber water that you drink. So you literally infuse the drink like Chinese medicine.
Right.
And you drink the sigil.
Right. I like that. That's a deeper infusion of itself.
Right.
See, what
So
I planned on doing was just taking a copy of it, dipping it in, holding it in, whatever. But you know, ink, not really knowing. I mean, to be honest, I stole this from work. It was a cool pen. I put it in my back pocket at some point, and then I came home and realized I still had it. And I was like, oh wow, it's a cool pen.
it'll make its way back eventually.
Yeah, at some point, I'll probably put it back in my pocket and then forget about it and wear those same pants to work and be like, oh, okay.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. So like that shit happens. But that's the thing, is like with this, you've got to be creative. So when you're trying to cause astral projection, you're trying to create an influx of energy in your body that builds up this separation between your psychic self and your physical self. So when you're unable to project, the physical body doesn't have enough awareness of itself or awareness of the psychic associations with it, so that way you can conjure those things which you need. And to be able to infuse your physical body with these kinds of things is an old school form of magic. So for those of you that are watching this, be very careful with the ink that you use, with the ingredients that you use when you're consuming sigils or what have you. But eating and consuming sigils, especially if you mix it into cucumber water after you've burned it, you've infused the ashes with your intent, like you draw out your gate design, put the thing on it in like a fire safe dish, and then collect the ashes from it while you're conjuring the gate as the thing is burning into the ashes, and then the ashes become the physical medium of your spell, and then you drink that into yourself. So when you speak the conjuration of projection, you're then giving yourself the catalyst and you're making the inside magic out.
Right.
Yeah, so that's an old school way to do it. So it's just mind your allergies, mind your sensitivities. Rice paper, if you are going to be near an Asian market, is a really good thing to have on hand every so often. Like, because you could take the food coloring and you could paint the designs on the rice paper, and then you can eat the rice paper.
There's one down the street. I'll work my way over.
It's good stuff. Yeah, like in Mexico, they've got these really crazy, like they're multicolored, they're like for kids, but they're multicolor and it's made out of rice, and it's like perfect for making image magic and consuming it. But again, just mind your allergies with this stuff. You don't want to overtax your soul or you overtax your body with it. But it does allow for that connection between what it is you're up to and those next level of opportunities. So next would be the preparation of your ritual space. Do you have an idea or a place where you want to project to?
Truly, I have no idea. I haven't done such a thing before. I
Okay.
mean, I can think, I can visualize areas or realities or realms, whatever.
So
Planes of existence.
when you're trying to project, you need to have a location in mind where you want to go to. The easiest way that you can do it is either have a photograph of the place, if it's a place on this planet, if it's an object that comes from there. I know you don't have a lot of physical objects or material. So if you've got, just as a test, somebody that went on vacation somewhere and you need to project into or around an area, and they've got a trinket from somewhere, right? Right. Or if you want to try to remember or recall a past place that you've been, to see if you can see it in your dreamscape, to see if you can have a dream of that place. So you take your symbol, you take a sigil in the same kind of way that you've got the spell for astral projection, right? Now you need to create one for the location that you want. So if you're going to draw on one hand, what you want to do, on the other, where you want to go.
Okay, I like that. Yeah,
So that way you've got a conduit flowing of destination and location.
Yeah, it's much more effective. It's like a missile. It's much more effective if you direct it.
Exactly. And so
Honestly,
when dealing with elemental magic and things like that, I've always got the energy that exists from this planet to the planet I'm working on, the energy on the planet as it exists there, and then from that planet back to this planet. And
I
so it
always figured
creates a door.
I'd always figured that I would just wind up where I'm at right now and then zoom around, not really knowing what to do. Man, I love the idea of it, you know, and I want to experience it. I have no real, because I'm very content with everything most of the time. I have no real want to just go to a very specific place. Usually I just want to explore wherever, you know?
But you have to keep in mind that the Earth is spinning and we're moving in
Right.
space. We're not staying stagnant. So even if you do wind up projecting back in time, even if it is a few hours ago, it's still just the void of space.
Well, right. But just in my general vicinity, exploring around where I'm at,
You still need to
looking
have a tether to it because the Earth itself is moving in
oh,
space.
I see.
So if you're not there with the planet, if you don't have a tether to it, you're just going to project into a blank space, and that's going to be that.
I see what you're saying. Okay. It took me a minute to catch on.
Yeah, the Earth is moving. We are moving on it. When you project out from it, your spirit body stops moving with it because it's no longer tied to the electromagnetic force of gravity, etc. So it gets untethered. It just sleeps in the void. Great, you're in the void. All right. Didn't accomplish anything. You need to have a projection of where to. And this is why gate magic is so important, is because what it does is it brings energy to this plane because you've created a focus for it, and you've created a place where all other energy is omitted. And the only thing permissible in that space is the energy of the gates you've opened. And so doing that to your body, creating a link of that channel to force into your body, and then giving yourself a tangible, this is where it's going to go, allows you to have the control necessary in order to be able to force your projection in a very controlled kind of way.
I see. That does make a lot of sense. I like that. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, again, and then you use the spell of force projection. So it's like, from out your mortal vessel free your astral self to walk and be upon the plane you wish to be, right?
Yeah.
Something simple like that as a mantra that you use in order to be able to focus the power that's flowing through you while you've opened the gate, while you're existing in the state of invocation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can trigger, like, if you can create an opening spell based on the type of thing that you want, you have to have an intent behind it, because any idle magician that's trying to summon a spirit, trying to accomplish magic, but doesn't really want anything from it, isn't going to have shit for success.
Right.
Because everything smacks of ego. It's like you're just doing it just to do it. And that's not the way it works. You have to have a purpose. There has to be a flow line. There has to be a connection from you into the thing you're trying to get it to do. Otherwise, there's no contact point. There's no flow line. You're not going to get the manifestation that you're looking for.
It's, doesn't have the oomph, actual will behind it. It's just passive.
Right.
Receptive, and is projective. That's the point of projecting.
Right. And so in this state, your vessel, your physical body becomes yin. Your spirit becomes the yang aspect. So it projects into the yang form, into the spirit world, into the yin world, as it were. Right. Figure that while you're enfleshed, right, your body is a yang animal. Your spirit is in its yin state. But when you go on the other side of the mirror, those properties invert. So your body becomes yin, your mind becomes yang, your spirit becomes yang. So balancing those currents out, which is why the dominant and passive hand, like your physical body, it's, while in this plane, your dominant hand is one way, your recessive hand is another. But if you switch those in the other world, that becomes your dominant hand, this becomes your recessive hand.
Right.
It's really confusing. It's like standing on the other, it's like facing yourself in a mirror and trying to control the reflection.
I like that. It's a very good analogy.
What is left is right. What is right is left. What is down, you have to go up, etc.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that for a while, because I never would have thought of anything really like that.
Yeah. And so, like what I was telling Mike, is when he's doing the summoning spells with the spirits in the graveyard, You can take rainwater and you can mix it with grave dirt, and you can paint the symbols and stuff onto a piece of glass or onto a mirror in the same kind of way that we were talking about the cultivation of the rings of power the other night. When you leave them in the graveyard or leave them in the cemetery after you inscribe them with their symbols, and you infuse it with the spirits of the dead, or you infuse it with the spirits of the earth that received the spirit. So you can with a mirror, and you can create a pathway from this world into the other world.
I like that idea, the whole idea of, not only just the interesting idea of a ring of power, the talisman of jewelry,
Yeah.
but also the actual aspect of infusing it with that whole necromantic space, I guess, because of not only it's in the dirt, it's with all the rest. That's a very neat way to go about it. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's that, and that's what's the start of really crazy shit, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
in like the ATRs and in hoodoo and things like that, the qualities of the dirt match for the qualities of the spell that you're going to have. So if you're trying to get something to move energy, you can use dirt from a train track. If you're going to try to take energy away, like you're going to try to make something travel, use energy, the dirt from a railroad track. If you're trying to create a junction point of energy, dirt from a crossroads. If you're trying to influence things with a courthouse dirt, justice, legal work, right? Medical stuff, take dirt from a hospital, take dirt from a doctor's office. Trying to do stuff with receiving or projecting spirit, graveyard, church ground, holy ground. Like, it just depends on where the dirt comes from, what the dirt is going to be responsible for. If it's a forest, if it's a swamp, if it's a mountain, if it's a desert, if it's a, bayou or whatever else, everything has its own genus Loki, the spirit of the land within it. And so if you're trying to project into the places responsible under the guardianship of those spirits, that's where you make petition and you make offering to those spirits before you entreat them for entry, right? And if you're doing soul projection, you can project into the spirit of the bayou, spirit of the swamp, spirit of the desert, spirit of the mountain, things like that, if you have dirt from those locations.
right.
So even if you don't really want to go anywhere other than your own house, if you take dirt from the garden, right, and you draw a symbol on a piece of glass, and then you put that glass next to a candle that you're using for the spell, or if you're just putting it next to where you sleep to keep you anchored to that place, right? Your name sigil mixed with the dirt from the land you're on to keep your spirit to that place, to keep your attachment to that talisman. You can do that also.
I like that. I've never really, actually, funnily enough, never considered the idea of the geological correspondence to certain things like the railroad track, for example. Considering how much I've hypothesized about things, I don't know why that's never crossed my mind. I mean, I've read in my library one of the books, Techniques of Astral Combat, I believe. It talks about the importance of symbolism when it comes to things, and actually gives a list of locations as a way to describe the symbolism, like how in, let's say, the astral plane or whatever, how forests, or the difference between like forests or plains, empty fields, meadows, and whatnot, and how they're very different because of what they are geologically.
Right.
A meadow is considered a big place of peace. A forest may be considered a place of dark, a lot of twisted turns, where things like that.
Exactly. And it's like,
Very interesting.
If you have dirt from a battlefield, if you have dirt from an old Civil War fortress, if you have dirt from an old Native American settlement that was murdered off, if you have dirt from castles, if you have dirt from holy sites, all of those carry a higher vibration than just your regular dirt from the garden.
Right, because of the events that taken place.
Exactly. The blood that's gone into the land, the spirits that have transferred from the living to the dead in that location.
right, all of the events that have gone over that, you know, throughout time, everything that that dirt has seen and gone through,
Exactly.
you know.
And so working that into your magic, working that as a foundation into your practice gives you the geo-targeting capacity when you're working on this plane, or when you're trying to create a link to the same kind of energy from this world into the other world, where that dirt does not exist in that form. It is another way to project outside of yourself and into a secondary place.
That is very interesting. That must be, it would probably make it a lot more effective to have that such a sturdy foundation like that.
Oh, absolutely. The amount of dirt you have can be a secret weapon.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so. Wow.
Yeah. And you keep an eye on places like Etsy, because there's witches
Mm.
that sell that stuff. They'll go to those locations and they'll sell it. Like there was one that was selling dirt from Elizabeth Bathory's murder tunnels, from a dungeon
Ooh,
from the Middle Ages that had a whole bunch of people murdered and dying in it. Uh, there
mm,
was dirt from the monastery of Chimeo out in New Mexico, where a saint touched down. It's like the one of the most holy sites in North America.
really?
Yeah. And so you can go out there and you could do the pilgrimage to go to those places and you get the dirts and all of that. And it's different than working with regular dirt. It's really impressive.
I would
So
imagine so.
yeah, and the thing is like you also have to pay for it. You have to give water to the spirits. You have to give smoke to the spirits. You've got to give some alcohol to it, right? It's not just about take a shovel and let's go raid some historical monument. It's about giving back to the land, right? Because I'm not talking about, destroying historical
Give
significant
and take,
places. Exactly. It's
you
about
know,
the union between you and the bond between the spirits of the place,
of
and
course.
what they will permit and what they won't permit, because you're taking spirits out of their place that they're bonded to. And again, this goes into what the Temple of Miriam was talking about with the Dybbuk boxes and the spirit conjurations of spirits that are so horrible that they've been removed from the process of transmigration. And so through the process of summoning and exorcism, they are purified if they work for you for a period of time to do a specific job. So those kinds of things become an intermediary, so that way you can use them to your advantage when you're summoning with them. And they become your spirit ally. They become a spirit familiar to serve you in the ways that you require. Then you release them after you've purified them so that they can go into the whatever other world that you want. And so this is why it's imperative to know the heavens, the hells, the different names and states of these things, because when you're summoning up those kinds of things, you have the means to do that.
Knowledge is power. You know, it's like you talked about in, I believe it was Monday nights or one of the nights. I'm very tired right now. My apologies.
No, you're good.
Um, you talked about because Alex, I believe, wanted to go to a graveyard, a cemetery, and he worried about his pregnant girlfriend or wife. Um, you know, because pregnant hosting your life, you talked about how spirits would love to just jump in
Oh,
there.
yeah,
But
that was
you,
also
you talked about leaving an offering at
yeah,
the gates, you
yeah.
know, give it back before you take to basically smooth things over.
Precisely. Yeah, that was the Association of Paranormal Studies,
Right.
that crew, when we were doing the El Campo Champo Cemetery down here
Right.
in San Diego, which is the oldest cemetery in California because it's where the site of the first mission was. So the first settlement in California outside of the native peoples was down
Wow.
there. And they put a road over part of the cemetery. And so where the bodies and stuff are buried underneath the road, they have little metal markers that they put in the road. So the cemetery extends past the gates for where the tourists go. So even walking down the street, it's kind of interesting.
I would imagine, you know, because it's still there, you
Right,
know.
right.
Wow.
Um,
You know, it's funny because there is if I wasn't able to do the right transformation in a place like indoors, it was before I talked with my significant other about it, before I told her everything, like what I plan to do. I made a backup plan, like what if worst comes to worst, if I can't, where would I go? And the spot I picked out was this unmarked graveyard. It was unmarked. It's between a couple different shopping centers, but I've seen things around there. Couple of my relatives have. They've smelt what they describe as burning bodies, things like that.
Interesting.
And it's a very open area. There was that and a couple other places, but that seemed very interesting. It's surrounded by building, so wind wouldn't be a huge issue. Things like that. But
That's great.
mm,
That's great.
I
And
yeah, I was most worried about the wind being, with the candles and whatnot.
glass vases.
Yes, yes, I read about it. I read about ways to protect it from the elements and the weather.
Yeah. One of the things, so if you like, I didn't have the means to do it when I was doing my Egyptian ritual. So the thing is, the candles had to be lower than the space where I was doing the ritual. So I did the ritual and I had them around, and I had an altar set up where it was lifted up off the ground and it was raised platform so that the light would shine from the candles upwards. But the candles were in baby food jars, so they were protected.
Oh, I like that. Wow. How
But what you could do is, depending on how big of a taper candle that you get, because those ones you have to carve the symbol of the talisman into, right? Put the flower and the herb of the planet into the flower, and then put that. You dig a hole, right? If you're going to do it outside, you dig a hole deeper than the candle, about maybe 3 inches deeper, and then you prep the bottom of the hole with the herbal ingredient in the mixture, and then you put the candle in it, and then you've got upward lighting. But you submerge the candle, and then that way when you're done you can just bury everything over and it just becomes part of the earth.
Wow. It's also giving back.
Yeah.
Damn. I really like that. I love the all of the different, I've talked about this more times than I can count, but all of the possibility that is so exciting to explore, especially in practice.
I mean,
Very tired.
so many ways.
Very tired tonight, but I may make coffee. I'm really, because I want to see myself succeed in this, not only just for my sake, but also to complete the task that I was set out to do. Don't want to leave that hanging.
That's good. And then, so we've talked about the methods that you could use to cause the energy to flow into your body, the ways that you can tether yourself to the land, so that way, even if you don't have a mirror that you can put it on, you can get a little bowl or a little plate or something from the kitchen, go outside and put a little bit of that dirt out there from outside into that plate and put it next to where you're sleeping.
Right. Put it under the bed.
Use that as an anchorage. And then when you're done in the morning, just simply take a glass of water, take the dirt, put the dirt back outside, and wash the plate with the water, let everything run back into the earth, so that way it creates the cycle. Collect the dirt again, repeat it for however many nights you need to, but you just bond a relationship with that dirt. You take the dirt, but you give back water.
Right.
And so it's about the return of energy. And so when you're done in the morning, after you've completed the spell, after you've taken your shower, washed all the ink and stuff off your hands, all that sort of thing, sit for 5-10 minutes, ground your energy back down, ground and center. If you've got a tree that's close to you that you can be sitting under, if it's not too cold outside, lay hands on the tree and just connect to that, right? That way it grounds you and it puts you back into your body from the myriad forms of the other world, right? Like that's one of those things. You said you had a pine wood wand, right?
No.
That was Alex.
No.
Sorry. So many different paths of magic and spells. All right.
Right. So, sounds interesting though. I mean, Hal may talk to him about that.
Yeah. And so what you can do is you could ask the sylph to guide you too. So if you've got a wand, you can hold the wand and call the spirit of the wand out, and it's an elemental. Trees birth sylphs, so you can make your own depending on if you have a relationship with the tree or not, depending on how much energy you shove through that piece of wood. Like after the rite of transformation, you'll have the energy to animate the spirit inside the wood to be able to birth those kinds of things. So that's probably a future conversation. But anyway, do you have any other questions on how you might go through this process? So that way you have it, if you have it, that way you've got something that you can do tonight that's nice and simple. I know I gave you a bunch of different options of ways you could pull this off.
Let's see, I may, realistically speaking, if I can wake myself up more, um, thinking right now, I like the idea of infusing it within itself and then using that as a way to bring that into me. Or like you said with the pen, I can inscribe it onto myself and then bring out its backing with the water onto myself. Either way, it achieves the same effect.
Right.
It's strengthening itself, using itself, has more of footing. And then when it comes to a location, I can get somewhere. There are many places that I want to go out. I love the adventure.
That's
You
great.
know,
Yeah.
so I
And
can, even if
Joseph,
it's not just for the adventure, just to feel the surrounding, just to meditate on it, and you know,
right. Just make a sigil the same way that you did for your astral projection.
mm,
That way you've
yeah,
got a location that you can project into. So it gives you a to and a from. You're here, you're going to, and
like,
again, it's an easy way to use your body as an altar and a conduit.
mm,
Because the thing with the rite of transformation is it's awakening all the energy that's already flowing inside of you, forcing it through through symbols and signs and things like that, is a way that you get in contact with that energy more so.
right. I like,
So, I mean, and this is technique that you can use for the rest of forever. Like
of course.
this is shit that they've been doing for thousands of years. It's like you draw the thing, you burn it, you say your prayer, and you consume it. Like, you know,
Hmm.
the eating magic is such a huge part of the old stuff. Like huge part. So
Raises a question. Not about currently, but I hear a lot of talk about past life things, especially in psych that revolve around reincarnation, which not only does everything do that, like every metaphysical, thing has something to do with reincarnation, but let's say Taoist, for example. Have you learned anything specific that has helped you in your practice from any sort of past life, you know?
so that's the thing is how do I say this? Excuse me. All right.
Plus,
Thank you. I was at a past life regression meditation training with Don Michael Craig, the guy that wrote 11 lessons of or 12 lessons of modern magic.
the name is
Or,
very,
huh?
the name is very familiar.
Yeah, he was the chief acquisitions for Llewellyn. So I exchanged a copy of the grimoire for him when he signed his copy of Lessons in High Magic for me. So we exchanged books that night. It was really great. And his method was you get into this hypnotic state. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and then you start and you see a tree, but in the tree, at the base of the roots of the tree, there is an archway, and into that archway, it's into the roots of the tree. So if you ever look up a yew tree, it's essentially going into the roots of the fay trees, right? It's the space and the gap between where the tree grows up and around and creates a little doorway, and there's like dirt in there, but it's still tree, but there's a hole, right? And you're projecting yourself into that hole and then into the dirt and then into the roots of the tree as it goes back through the past, and you walk the lines of your tree of life. And so you go through that and you see the applications and the different aspects of the lives that you've lived, right? And so by doing that, connecting to the world that was, you can see where you came from.
I like that, and you said once before that the only thing in, let's say, the grimoire of arts, for example, that you learned from entity or a, whatnot, was the rite of transformation. How did you stumble across that?
I was
Did
doing
you,
something I don't recommend any person actually do. Um,
was it,
I was mixing herbal smoking blends, so the ethnobotanicals. I used Blue Lotus for psychic projection. I used U for psychic awareness. I used a U needle to connect me to the dead. U is incredibly toxic. It slows your heart rate and will give you a heart attack if you touch it, let alone smoke it. Um, so it
okay,
felt like the couch was eating me for 6 hours. It's not safe. It's not something I recommend, but it was as close to death magic as I'm going to get for willingly trying to get as close to death without actually dying.
wow, okay, and describe the experience, how to,
The couch
so,
was eating me for about 6 hours, and I was then put in a place that was all gray. And there were these figures wearing a black kind of robe type thing, no faces, nothing. It was just, hoods. And then I was on this giant stone altar, and they were standing around me. It's 12 or 13 of them chanting this spell. The spell that I heard was that everything in that ritual. Like, I was barely lucid enough to grab a Sharpie and a bunch of paper at the time, because I had a little notebook. It was like a composition book. And so the entire thing, like, these were big fucking letters, like page after page after page. Like, it was fucking intense. And so I was trying to refine it, trying to go through it, and it needed no editing. Like, that's a spell that was just like done. You know, that was
I
fucking nuts, man.
I can just imagine you like sitting there scrawling big like letters, trying to get it all out before you
Oh
lose
yeah.
consciousness.
And I couldn't fucking move. Like, the only thing in my body that could move was my hand. Like, I was stuck to that couch. I was not going nowhere. Was not going nowhere.
Wow, you have a lot of interesting experience.
I'm more of a doer than a talker of empty method. Like, if we're
Okay,
gonna just raw dog this shit for nature, let's just fucking go for it, right? So
I
these
like
are the experiences that I bring back to this planet, as far as from the other world. It's like, don't smoke the U needle now. Just don't do that.
yeah.
It's dangerous
Don't
as fuck.
don't think I'm going near that
Yeah,
anytime soon, but I
yeah,
should gravitate more towards doing like
yeah,
with this and other things. I'm getting out of that comfort zone of just hypothesizing and really delving into it
yeah.
more and more. It's a journey.
It is a journey, and that's the thing, is like, you've got these situations in life where you can use drugs, you can use alcohol, you can use other herbal enhancements, um like the flyargoric and things like that, only when you're 18, mind you, because you shouldn't be doing it now.
Of course, never.
But while you're in this period of development, while you're in this youthful state, as it were, your energy changes over time. Like, in your 20s, your energy is going to be different from the energy in your 30s, right? The energy while you're still in your late teens is absolutely phenomenal. You've got the ability to do all sorts of crazy shit. Capitalize on that,
But
within what is safe, right?
mm,
So
hmm,
you've got this period of time in your life where you can do a lot more, because you're closer to the period of when you were born than you were close to when you're gonna die, if that makes sense.
right.
So you can use that to your advantage.
Yeah, and I guess that's especially useful going through the right here soon.
Yeah. So here's another bit of crazy magic. Summoning spell for yourself.
Okay,
So
right.
in Buckland's Book of Candle Burning Magic, there is a spell to increase personal power. It takes 9 nights to do. It takes an astral candle that is associated with yourself. I don't have the spell. I'd have to go find it, but
I have a couple of his books in my library. I'll
it's the
grab
blue
which
one from the 70s, not the reprint from the 90s. They don't have it in the new one.
one. Okay.
It's
Okay.
only in the
I
first
will.
edition.
All right. I'll keep an eye out because I have the book of general, witchcraft, then the one of spirit communication, and then I'll grab some more because he has
Yeah.
put out some good stuff.
Yeah, Buckland's books are good. Or at least that book is good by Buckland. I still haven't read the big blue one. But here's a crazy bit of magic, right? You can loop the spells that you do in life using that particular thing, because the way that spell works is it's every time you push magic out into the world, it's designed to fill up your body with more energy afterwards. So when you project the magic through spellcraft, it fills your body with more.
Okay.
This is why I say use this spell. So what you can do, crazy advanced magic for you that you can think about and ponder for years. I did this shit when I was like 15 because I'd already been thinking about it for a few years because I found it and I was like, oh my God, like, let's be fucking nuts. Anyway, you can call magic from the time of your death to the time of your life and attach it to a spell similar to this, where every time you cast a spell, it changes the fate of your life. So you create a loop between where you are when you die and all of the life path of where you're going to be as a result of that spell in your life. And you loop that energy back through, so that way by the time you die, you pull the wisdom of what occurs for that spell back from the time of death through your body and as a medium and a conduit and a channel of your own cycle.
That is some very, very
paradoxes
wow.
Are a bitch.
God.
You can do ridiculous shit. You can do really, really ridiculous shit. So when you go through past life regression, yeah, that's fun, but you're alive in this world. What happens when every action that you do, you want to take a look and see what it's going to do, right? What is it going to be? What is the effect on your life that it's going to be afterwards? What is the power that you're going to have afterwards? What are the initiations that you're going to have to go through? And this is how you link to your death date. And you go through and you entrain your life to make sure that your life is on track, because every time you use a bit of magic at this point, when you've cast a spell like that, you're then reshifting your focus to a new line and dimension. So it's no longer the life that was, because now the life that was you without that spell in your life, without that new inviting of energy. Now that it's a new life, it's a new dimensional lifeline. And so it changes the dimensional patterning.
Wow. I need to think about that when I'm more conscious, when I'm less.
So like that's next level ridiculous shit. Like I had some crazy.
That is very
like
I'm on the cusp of just saying why not and just delving into the most story-worthy couple of years later things that I could think of.
I mean, you're on the path to becoming a magician, like a full-blown fucking sorcerer, right? So why not have fucking epic stories, man? Like that's what like most of the modern Marvel comics, fucking Lord of the Rings, like Harry Potter, like all the big stories in history, all the fucking mythos of the gods and the warrior priests and the shamans and shit, like it's all come down to the magic and the shit we do and the stuff that we can back up as a result. It's like if I didn't do the spells to project myself into the other world, I wouldn't have heard the rite of transformation. I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I've been able to do. Therefore, I wouldn't have had the experiences to meet the people I've had the opportunity to meet. As a result, my practice didn't get better or got better.
Yes, I'm gonna have a date with the pine needle.
Say that again?
I guess I'm gonna have a date with the pine needle.
No, do not do that. Do not.
I'm kidding.
Toxic as fuck. Don't do it.
As much as possible. I'll report back tomorrow.
Jesus Christ. No. No. Don't. Please don't.
You're influencing. This is on you now.
No, right? I am not. I am telling you specifically, do not do this. Do not do this.
Do it. Okay.
Don't. Children, no. This is why I can't have kids.
You heard it from Mr. Lovering himself.
Do not do this, people. Don't be stupid. This you will poison yourself. Don't use these kinds of ingredients, children.
Well,
it is not a safe
You're
thing.
living proof.
uh
You survived.
I'm weird as shit. Don't you know?
My mother thinks that my mushroom experience when I was 4 is part of the reason why I'm so open-minded and interested in this stuff now.
I mean, the fact that you're tripping balls when you were 4, like, oopsies, oopsie doodles. Yeah.
I do have to hop out of here soon.
No,
but,
you're good. We've been at this an hour. So those are just some things that you can consider as far as like future practice. Like,
Right.
don't smoke you.
Okay.
Don't. It's
Don't
bad.
worry. It was just for joke's sake.
Okay, good. Yeah, like
No,
I
I was wholly joking. There I have no intention at all. I am too apprehensive about even working with celestial gates. Like, it took me up to now to really start to experiment with things like that. You think I'm just gonna go have some pine needles, put them all in a bowl and have a good time? I'll start sticking them into my veins and stuff too. See what I can do. I'll look like Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Precisely. Precisely. A world of infinite pleasure. No.
Oh yeah.
Don't. Yeah, no. Oh my God, no. All right. Thank you so very much, my friend. Have a wonderful and safe evening. And
I try.
I look to hear about what you're up to tomorrow. I look forward to
Got it.
So
Whatever
enjoy your
I can
homework.